Raptors are currently practicing today because they have a doubleheader coming up. You are watching Raptors Today. I'm Savanna Hamilton alongside Sherman Hamilton. And of course, Paul Jones will be coming on a little bit later. But Sherm, we have to get real here for a second because the Raptors, they had a 5-game win streak. They were looking really good there for a moment. But then now they're currently 1-5 in the last 6 games. They're on a bit of a losing edge right now. Let's call it that. What's going on?
Well, I think number one, Savanna, when you talk about them from a defensive perspective, we've seen some slippage, and the concerns are not that they can't get back to who they are defensively. It's about how quickly they can get back. And the fact is, they're going to be on the road for a little bit. So how do you figure that out in the mess of being on a West Coast trip? There's no question this team has been great on the road. They lost the last one, but they have some good tests coming up. And I think they've got to figure out really quickly how to get off the better starts from a defensive perspective. We saw in the last game offensively, they were able to score. But it's the defensive side of the basketball on the road that really matters. And the Raptors have that ability. They've shown consistency on the defensive end throughout the early parts of the season. Now it's about getting back to those tenets and those principles and understanding they have to be connected, they have to communicate, and use that length. We've talked about their length all season long. They have to get back to using that length to their advantage and make everything disruptive for opposing teams.
Not to mention they've had a few injuries here and there. You know, Fred missed a game. Boucher's missed a game. Precious missed a game. So there's been a few string of injuries along with these rough home losses as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing if they could mesh it back together. Pascal Siakam also joined the lineup, which of course is going to naturally maybe have to adapt to new team chemistry on the court, especially on the offensive end as well. So, but moving on, the Raptors will be playing 3 games between now and our next episode. They'll be playing the Jazz, the Kings, and the Warriors. So we got to start somewhere. We're going to start with the first matchup being the Jazz. We're going to talk about Donovan Mitchell here because he's playing phenomenally. What are you seeing?
Well, to your point, he is just one of those stars in the league that creates all kinds of matchup issues. When you're talking about off the bounce, you're talking about shooting the ball from deep, putting pressure on your paint. He's so athletic and explosive when he gets to the basket, but he's also added that element of passing the basketball. And when great players decide that they want to make other people better, now they become a real problem. And if you're the Raptors, you just played against C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard, 2 guys who create all kind of havoc off the dribble. Well, Donovan Mitchell's bigger, he's stronger, he's more explosive around the basket. He's going to force you to send a second defender. So how do you react on the backside? How does your rotations clean up the defensive end, especially on the glass? So it's really going to be an issue. And we're going to talk about Rudy Gobert, but the glass becomes exposed, and he's another monster.
Listen, I don't want to hear you say, let's hope and pray. Again, like last episode. No, you're right. The Raptors.
We should hope and pray.
We should always hope and pray. But the Raptors, they do have a problem on their hands with Donovan Mitchell because you're right. He is stronger. He's bigger. And he's a threat. He's honestly one of the prominent faces of this league in terms of scoring an all-round game as well. So he's going to cause issues. But, of course, there's also Rudy Gobert, who is averaging above his career numbers right now on both his points and his boards. So how are the Raptors going to stop the 7-footer?
Well, I think with Rudy Gobert, one thing I think you have to really involve him in is a lot of screen and roll scenarios. Keep him away from the basket, force him to have to switch out and defend your guards. That way, when shots go up, he's got to get back to the basket. You have a better chance at challenging the backboard in this situation. The other thing with Rudy Gobert is attack him. If you have him squared up, the Raptors quite a few times play 5-out basketball. If Pascal's defended by Rudy Gobert, if Khem Birch is defended by Rudy Gobert, attack him off the dribble, put him into motion, force him to move his feet, and that allows you potentially to get him into foul trouble. But you have to be physical with Rudy. He's so long. He's got a great knack for rebounding the basketball. And, you know, we talk about great rebounders being tall, but then there's a feel appeal. There's a desire to go get it. Rudy Gobert has that. The other side of it is he's a great shot blocker. So you have to make sure you stay in attack mode. Don't give him the space to be able to create those block shots. Get into his body, force the officials to blow the whistle, and make sure he has to stay extremely active. The best way to neutralize a player like that is to have him sit on the bench.
that would be an ideal situation.
Yeah.
However, he had such a dominant win, his game in particular, over the 76ers in their last game. So it's one of those players that you just really have to find a body. Our producer before was talking about team committee basketball against him, and really always making sure that you're staying physical and not letting him get what he wants, really. Now, we do have to hear from the team, so we're going to throw to them now.
I mean, I know we're missing people. It doesn't seem like we operate that great, missing 2 or 3, guys. It seems like every game it's switching. So the continuity and the chemistry, this team hasn't handled it as well as we probably need to, because that's a fact of life in this league. Guys are going to be in, guys are going to be out, and you got to keep some consistency. But that part of it feels to me like that's where, that's where it gets a little sticky on offense and special situations. There just isn't the comfortability of knowing exactly where the pieces are supposed to be. But that's it. So that's all I can say there. I don't know. I mean, listen, there was a couple of them that were our, the nobody to put on but ourselves, right? But there's also, and I don't think so. I mean, listen, I think they were all the way till the end. They were trying to continue to play as hard as they possibly could. They're doing a good job, I think, of keeping up that part of it.
Okay, now we talked about the Jazz. We're moving on to the Kings now. The 2 names that stand out immediately are Buddy Hield and Harrison Barnes.
Yeah.
They're both quick. They're both feisty. How do the Raptors defend those two?
Well, they're 2 different players, though. When you talk about Harrison Barnes, more of a veteran guy. He's got that size. He can play inside, outside. He puts the ball on the floor, can attack, he can shoot it. A very versatile offensive player that has some size on the defensive end. And with Harrison Barnes, you're going to have to mix it up with him, because he will attack a mismatch. If you try and put a smaller player on him, he's going to take you down to the block, and he'll be very comfortable operating out of the block. And then Buddy Hield, he's a marksman. This guy is a flamethrower. You've got to stay connected to him, because he will let it fly from deep. He's athletic to elevate, and I really think he's one of those guys that when you're coming off of screens, there's no indecision there.
No.
You stay connected, your big show, you make sure someone stays in front of him, because he will let it fly. And I think when you're defending a perimeter like that, you have to be very aware to switch gears when you're defending. Understand, if you get caught on a switch and you're defending Harrison Barnes and you switch out to Buddy Hield, you automatically have to understand that now it's not about playing a bit more gap defense. It's about getting into him. And if you get switched back to Harrison Barnes, you have to adjust accordingly. So both these guys present a lot of issues, and both of them can really hurt you from inside and outside.
I was just going to say, because the Raptors have been switching everything,
Yes.
It seems like, this season, at least on trend. And, when you're playing these players, you can't give them the space. You can't, come off of them too much on the switch. You have to actually push up on them. If you're going to be switching, you have to suffocate them. Otherwise, they're going to make you pay either by a shot, or you're giving them enough room to get past you on a dribble already.
Absolutely.
So got to attack them first. Now, another name that comes to mind is also De'Aaron Fox. How do we defend him?
We're going to hope and pray again, Sav, because I think when you talk about the speed of De'Aaron Fox, and this is a guy who free throw line to free throw line with the ball might be one of the fastest guys in the league with some size. And I think you really have to understand, what are the lesser of the 2 evils with this guy? Him getting to the basket or him shooting contested jump shots or threes? I think you've got to gap him, dare him to shoot the basketball. If he makes shots, you don't change a game plan, you take that. You shake his hand and say, great game. But you know that he can damage you getting to the basket, put you in foul trouble, compromise your bigs. So you want to make sure you keep him in front as much as possible. But the dangerous thing about De'Aaron Fox is not only is he fast, he's skilled.
Yep.
And when you have speed and skill, it becomes a very difficult proposition. And I think with De'Aaron Fox, you're going to pick your poison.
Yep.
Great players hurt you in some way, shape, or form. They find a way to figure it out. You've got to make a decision on how you're going to defend him. And I think with De'Aaron Fox, you gap him. But a guy that's that fast, it's a dangerous proposition. And I think guys with skill really present no out for you in terms of a comfortable area to land.
I was going to say, Sherman, what is tougher? Defending somebody that has speed or defending someone who's just so skilled?
Everything's tough for me, Sam. But I will say this.
Not back in your day.
Right.
Not back.
But speed is an issue, because speed is something that if you're a defender, you can't predict.
Yep.
Good defenders try to get to spots. They try to anticipate. They have active hands. They know when to be physical. With speed, it gets neutralized a lot of times because guys can just get to spots on the floor that you as a defender can't get to. The problem with crafty players are they just manipulate you. They yoke you into position. They get you into a spot where they can compromise you. And when a guy is crafty or a basketball player is crafty, you're always trying to catch up. It's like the good guys and the bad guys. The bad guys are always a step ahead of the good guys. A crafty player has a neutralizing move for everything you throw at them on the defensive end. So both of those things are difficult to contend with. I just think speed is something that you just can't match. You have to give it up and gap that speed, and if they can shoot, you're done.
Absolutely. There's so many players that come to mind. You know, think about Giannis, how quick he actually really is. He could just get down the floor, and I don't even know how many dribbles, like 3 dribbles probably, max.
Yeah.
And then there's other guys who at least towards the end of their career, they slowed down, like Steve Nash, and you know, so crafty still, so effective. And how many players do we know like that? But I will say this, Sherm, when I was playing as a post player at Ryerson, I did not like the speedy players.
It's tough, isn't it?
They were so and it wasn't even the fact that they were on ball with speed, it was the off ball. When they're moving and cutting and you gotta like have your like head on a swivel. But then at the same time, like if you take your eyes off, they're gone.
And as a post player, you want to hit people.
Yeah, I do.
It's hard to hit what you can't catch.
Exactly.
Speed is a problem.
Well, we got to catch the players talking about their next matchup as well from practice, so we'll head to the team.
You know, just to get more reps, kind of just to go out there and get like a live workout. So what I've been working on, trying to get to put that into live play. And, you know, kind of just being out there, you know, getting a lot of minutes, getting my wind under me. And, you know, whenever I get a chance to play down there, you know, I'm going to be the first person to say that I want to do it. So, you know, I loved playing down there and it was fun. I love playing for Coach Mutombo too. So, you know, it's great. It's a good experience. And, you know, my family gets to come out and watch me play as well. So it's fun all around. You know, every day I'm just kind of looking to improve. Just whenever my name's called, go out there and, you know, play to my strengths and, you know, bring the energy and play to our pillars like the team needs. But, you know, every day's a new day, so it's kind of, you know, nothing to be satisfied with and, you know, kind of just continuing to try and be better every day, and I know I can, so, you know, I'm never satisfied with what I've been doing, so no.
Okay, we're now going to head over to our third member of our crew, Paul Jones, for his thoughts, breaking down the Golden State Warriors matchup that the Raptors will be seeing on Sunday.
All right, thanks, Sav. I know you guys have covered the Kings and the Utah Jazz. Gives me a chance to talk about the Golden State Warriors, and, man, have they busted from the gate. You look at Steve Kerr and what he's done. He's got a system that he wants to play. The guys have bought in, and there's so many different things contributing to their success. First off, they have played 9 of their 14 games at home. They're 8-1 at home. They've got off to a great start there, taking care of home court. And then they've gotten great contributions from role players. We'll get into that a little bit later, but just the numbers that play out the way they do. Number 1 in scoring. Amongst the leaders, and everybody looks at the offensive stuff with Golden State. You got to look at the defense. Amongst the leaders in opponents' field goal percentage, number 1, opponents' points allowed, not giving up very many threes in terms of percentage, number 3 in opponents' field goal percentage from 3, and then in the top 10, giving up the fewest assists. So they are playing really, really well. They're playing together, and Steve Kerr's system has been taken on by a lot of the newcomers. And you think about the team, it was a team in transition last year. And I think they got kind of a harbinger of things to come towards the end of the year when Steph Curry started to play really well. A lot of people had him in the MVP conversation toward the end of the year. It wasn't quite there. They did get into the play-in game, and that was good for some of these people getting experience. So the Warriors right now doing really, really well. And they're a dangerous team. It's only the quarter pole, but they've bolted out to a great start. And they're going to be tough to deal with all the way through the season. All right, let's I don't know why we do this. I get drawn into this. I hate to talk about it so early. We're barely at the quarter pole. We're not quite there yet. But everybody wants to talk about MVP. So you know what? Although I don't like to do it this early, I'll jump in. And if you don't think it's Steph Curry right now, you have not been watching some of the games he's put up. He put up a triple-double against the Lakers. He gave the Clippers 45 and 10. He gave Atlanta 50. Oh, by the way, he gave Memphis 36. A 40-point night against Chicago. These are all good teams. And then, oh, by the way, with Durant and Harden on the other side, he puts up 37 points in only 29 minutes. And, you know, a lot of people will point to the fact that Steph is scoring. That's what he does. He's the leader of the team, and he's giving confidence to all the other guys on the team. And the one thing that people would get on him about is his defense. And I'll say this, he's not going to win any Defensive Player of the Year awards, but I will say that he's at least trying. Golden State, as I talked about before, is amongst the leaders in a number of defensive categories. And you don't do that unless you have 5 guys, every guy buying in. Yeah, it's true. You can hide one weak defender. You can't hide 2, 3, or 4. And Steph Curry is doing his part on the defensive end right now. And you just look at what he's doing on offense and how he's creating scoring for himself and for other people. Check the assist column because he's doing well there too. So, yeah, I hate to talk about it so early in the year. We're barely at the quarter pole, 20 games in, 15, 20 games in. But if I had an MVP vote right now, it'd be Steph Curry. And this is not a fluke. This guy knows how to do. He's done this before. So as I said, with the team, you're going to have to deal with Steph Curry all the way through this season, playing at a high level. All right, we've talked about the Warriors, how well they're doing, the ridiculousness of talking about the MVP at the quarter pole with Steph Curry, but he is playing well. But, all that doesn't happen unless you get contributions from the other guys. The whole band has to be playing the same sheet music. And right now, the Warriors are getting great contributions from the other guys, the role players, Gary Payton II, Jordan Poole, Damian Lee. And I want to start with Damian Lee, who has been around. He's been in that system. He understands what to do. He knows where his shots are coming from. He's done a terrific job for them. And then Jordan Poole is a guy that they find. And the Warriors have done this before. This is not something strange or something new to them. They pick up Jordan Poole. He comes into the system and he understands it right away. He plays the style. He gets up and down. He takes the 3 balls when they're there. And that's an important part of the system because guys are expecting him to shoot. They know where to be for rebounding. They know where to be for defensive balance. So both of those guys have done well. And then you look at Gary Payton II, a guy that the Raptors had a look at on their G League team. He's shooting 68%. And a lot of them are, as our producer Jake LaRue and I have talked about, highlight reel dunks. But at the same time, it tells you that he understands his role and he's not going to take bad shots outside of the system or outside of his role. So the Warriors doing it in everywhere, led by Steph Curry, getting great contributions from role players and people on the bench. All right, when we come back, you will see the manifesto video produced by our own host right here of Raptors Today, Savanna Hamilton. More on the other side.
This is who we are.
We are a community of people
who believe that a culture of equity,
Diversity
and inclusion off the court
is as important as our play on it.
We believe in differences of ability, age,
ethnicity, gender, race,
religion, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status
Should not differentiate how people are treated.
with kindness, with compassion, and with respect.
We believe that listening is as important as speaking.
We will not hesitate to take action.
and we will do so intentionally.
Focus on change. We are empowered
We are determined to learn.
to lead and to love.
We are all human. We're all human.
We are all human.
We are the Toronto Raptors.
Sherm, I had the absolute privilege and opportunity to produce that video alongside with Dwayne Watson. Front office also had some major contributions in making that video possible. And of course, the Raptors community themselves. I had the chance to reach out to individual people and get a diverse range of people, faces, voices to be in this video. And I really appreciate the fact that they did that because I think it's a reflection of just how great the diverse community is with the Raptors fan base, and I don't take that for granted.
No, absolutely not. And you realize in that we're all the same on some level.
Yeah.
And I think the message in that was about inclusivity. Everybody matters, everybody deserves an opportunity, and nobody should be treated differently. And I think that message has to be continually hammered home. Listen, we're in a society where there are levels. There are things that people think differentiate them from other things. And that creates a real inequality. And I think we've got to get rid of this whole stance. We have to understand, too, that the more we work together is the better everybody is.
Yes.
And we can't continue to separate and segregate each other based on race, color, sexual orientation, whatever you want to say. You can't continue to do that. And I think The movement now is about the consistency of it. It's not about these spikes in these situations that we're making noise for 1 second and the other second we're quiet.
Yes.
It's a consistent banging of the drum. It's constantly preaching that message and putting it out there, because that's the only way, and it's got to be done as a unified front.
Yes.
We don't want to be like this out there as 5 fingers trying to figure it out, because we can hit harder with a fist.
Yeah.
So let's do it together and continue to build each other up while we continue to build everybody at the same time.
Absolutely. And I think the Raptors franchise as a whole, they've really emphasized the importance of diversity and inclusion and equity and equality. So there's so much strength in this organization. That's why I'm very happy to be a part of it to some degree. And you don't see that everywhere. I think as a fan base, we can take that for granted sometimes, but these conversations are so important to have on a consistent basis, as you mentioned, because we can't wait for the next, bad accident or bad mistake or murder or death to happen. We have to actually continue these conversations because they're very real and they prevent things from happening. Let's get in front of the issue. Let's not be chasing it from behind. Let's put messages out like this is a safe space. We want everybody to be welcomed in Scotiabank Arena.
And that's a great point, Sav, and that comes down to leadership. And leadership comes on so many different levels. And yes, MLSE is doing a great job showing leadership, but understand too, individuals can be leaders in their own way. Everybody's voice matters, and your form of leadership in terms of taking care of this subject and being a vocal part of it, it matters. If you're affecting one person, that's a great job. If you're affecting thousands of people, that's a great job. Everybody can do something to move the needle forward.
Absolutely.
And that's how we've got to approach it.
Absolutely. Even on one of my shows this past summer, Swish, I really emphasized that, listen, you could have a voice at your own dinner table. You don't gotta, if you're not comfortable all the time putting it out on social media, listen, no one's forcing you to do that. If you just have a conversation with your mom, with your dad, with your brother, with your sister, who maybe not have seen the same perspectives that you have seen, yeah, I get it. The uncomfortable conversations can be awkward, it can be tension-seeking, but you have to overcome that in order to push the narrative for everybody's well-being, because you're right, there's power in that.
Absolutely, and you control the controllables.
Yes.
We can only do what we can do, and we can continue to do it vigorously, consistently, and with purpose and spirit, and I think that's what we have to do. The energy has to be with the movement, not against the movement, and as long as we all pull in the same direction, we are going to make ground.
Yes.
It's going to be a fight, it's going to take time, but it's going to be a relentless battle, and we're not going to quit.
Absolutely. Now the Raptors will be playing the Utah Jazz this Thursday. You can watch it on Sportsnet at 9 p.m. and also listen to it on TSN Radio to 1050. Sherm, do you have any final thoughts just before you head out?
Sav, I think you're a great post player. I don't care how quick they were. You can handle them.
Thank you. Thank you. You were pretty quick in your day, so I'm sure you're one of those people giving me a hard time. Thank you from the crew, of course, Sherman Hamilton, Savanna Hamilton, Paul Jones, Jake, Dwayne, Rob, and Luke behind the scenes. Thank you for watching another episode of Raptors Today.